And hello, everybody. Dr. Jen Fram here, and I am absolutely delighted to bring to you two fascinating guests, Zara and Candace, who are joining us today from Ontario, Canada. Without much ado, Zara and Candace, tell us about yourself and what do you do?
Yeah, well, thanks for having us, firstly, Jen. We are change management leads, so we lead a COE function within a large organization here in Canada. And I have been with the organization for 28 years, coming up to 29 years. But
Wow.
I will tell you that, yes, isn't it great? But I will tell you, it doesn't feel like 29 years. The variety of work that I've been exposed to. My background is HR, the last decade in change management, and every day is a new experience. It's so much fun.
Amazing. Candace, how about you?
Thank you. As Zara mentioned, partners in crime at the retail organization. I've been with this organization for 18 years, and then previously worked in another retail organization within Ontario, and then an oil industry as well. So I've had a bit of a change of industries along the way, and I've been in change management now for about 16 years within this organization, and I echo what Zara says, change keeps changing. So how we do change keeps changing. And so it keeps us on our toes and keeps it interesting.
I think that's really interesting. Both of you have got this longevity in your organization, which perhaps stands at a conflict or in tension with the concept of change and agility. And I think there's actually a lovely proof point there around change and agility doesn't have to be frantic and really big changes all the time. I'm wondering, can you tell us a little bit around what change and agility means to you in context of your workplace? What is it important? I'm assuming it's important. How does it play out?
Absolutely. Thanks for that question. The world of work and the needs of our customers continue to change, and especially in a retail organization, it's changing faster than ever before. And so to meet and exceed our customers and our colleagues' needs, we continue to have to think and behave differently. So what that means is really approaching our change in more of a flexible and iterative fashion. It means emphasizing collaboration, continuous improvements, co-creation, and really having more feedback loops to be able to understand in real life scenarios and after the rubber has hit the road, how it's landing and what we need to do to kind of make it better. Are we all the way to bright? No, it's been a journey for us. We've certainly been on our own journey and continue to try to bring in, I'm going to say, agile change practices within our projects, regardless of whether they're using an agile methodology or framework, because the benefits of having our individuals involved in designing that change, as well as designing the change plans themselves, are insurmountable. So baby steps, we're moving slowly but surely forwards along the way.
Yeah, nice. I'm kind of curious around, again, if we put that in context of your history, would you have said that 15 years ago?
No, I would not have. I would have suggested that the way change was done was the expectation of everything is nailed down, 100% perfection, long runways of change, long multi-year projects, and until you see something go live several years later, where now we're looking at how do we bring value faster to the customer or to our colleagues, and how do we continue to improve. Not all projects are launched that way. Not all projects are there, but we're learning along the way, and we're continuing to influence the way that works along the way.
Yeah, and what I heard there, and Zara, I'll get to you in a moment because I'm really interested in your journey. But what I heard there, Candace, was, which I don't hear often, is around the use of change and agility to drive value. There was a very clear signposting around driving value, and I think for the listeners, that might be a really interesting proof point for them. Can you say a little bit more about how do we drive value through change and agility?
So in a couple of the most recent projects we've supported is we've understood what the pain points are of a specific process or a specific scenario. And, instead of waiting till everything got designed and launching it at the end, we were like, okay, what can we get done quickly and what can we launch? And so it meant launching in a couple of phases. It meant preparing our operations, especially when you think about retail, having our stores prepared that we might hit them more than once. But it's about relieving a pain point at a time to simplify their life, as opposed to waiting for it to run its gamut and its course to get it done all at once.
Yeah, gotcha. So, Zara, tell us a bit about your journey to change and agility. How have you introduced, what have you done to increase the change capability and agility, or perhaps the maturity? I don't know what the language is that's most important to you.
Probably any one of those words would sort of resonate with us. I mean, if we were to go back to sort of how did change come to be at the organization, this was in the early 2000s, and we had large transformation initiatives. I think Candace just spoke to sort of to that, and then change management was introduced as this sort of new function. And I think we started in the early days with just a handful of folks supporting the function. And then a very big transformation, aka SAP, came in, and suddenly it was hundreds of change management practitioners that were introduced to the organization to support sort of a mammoth task. I think it was slated to be a couple of years, ended up being a lot more than a couple of years. And at that time, Candace sort of alluded to this, but it was a sort of fully baked package that came back to the business. So, the change practitioners would go off and design and process design and do the change pieces, but also do everything in between: training, communications, you name it, security accesses and all that good stuff. And then I think what happened then is sort of between Candace and me coming into the team, and sort of the ask of us as leaders of the function was to sort of turn that a bit on its head. That served its purpose, but now sort of we wanted to sort of normalize the OCM function and build that change capability. And so, Candace and I have really spent a decade, and I'd love to say it's evolved. It was an evolution, maybe a revolution, in terms of what we brought to the organization in that standardized approach to change, and sort of what it was, because we sort of had to at first work hard to demystify what even change management, business change was. And I think we've got it to a really great place in the last couple of years, and then quickly realized that sort of agility was needed to really take us that little bit further. And I would say, if I think about our journey, certainly from the OCM team's perspective for the last year, and if I was to go back and replay like our thoughts and feelings, and I think when we first reached out to you, Jen, we were really like deer in headlights. What was this thing? What do we have to do differently? I think we've learned a lot, and we've grown. And Candace and I certainly pride ourselves on, we don't see ourselves as, we may be the leaders of the team, but we don't see ourselves as experts. And so we've grown with our team. We've been vulnerable. We've learned with our team right alongside them. And we're equally in this to sort of better improve and really sort of create that value, not only for ourselves, but for our team, and then for the broader business as well. So certainly we're on the infancy of where we are with agility. One of the things I would say that we have done and done well is, we've been able to weave in agility and agile ways of working within what we currently do within change management. So it may be less about the what that's changed, but the how we're doing it is different. And we're seamlessly doing that with our business, so they don't see this as, or a big new project or a new buzzword that's come about. They're just engaging with us, and in a right way, in a different way. And it's working. It's easy. It's working.
Brilliant. I want to drill down on 2 points there. So one, you said that you and Candace have been vulnerable and you've learnt with the team. I'm really curious what that looks like in practice. Can you give us a snapshot of like a day in the life of, or what does that, because I can imagine there's people listening to this and perhaps watching it who are, well, yeah, I get that we've got to be vulnerable, but how and in what way and in what circumstance? So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, one of the agile practices that we introduced sort of over the past year was the work out loud, or we call it teach one. So the teach back. So learning an agile practice or an agile way of working and then sharing it back with the team. So by no means are we experts, like the royal we of the team, experts in the content, but we go off, we research, we learn, and then we share it back to the team, and then we encourage sort of action, the so what now what activity from that. And that wasn't just introduced to the team. Candace and I are equal participants in that. So we've gone off and done our fair share of research and standing up in front of the team, sharing the content, being vulnerable with the facilitation, and then the action and the activities that's expected after. So, we're in this together, sort of holding hands. We're not sort of the leaders of the team, sort of encouraging and guiding. And don't get me wrong, that's part of our role as the leads of the group, but we're equally in this together as a learning journey. Candace, anything to add?
I completely agree with what you said, Zara. And the only other piece I would add is we really encourage with our team members, okay, you've tried something. What worked well? What didn't work well? And really kind of taking stock. And we do the same thing with, the projects that we support. And we've shared our learnings and our failures with our team members so that they understand that it's not always just a rosy path, but there's always a great path to learning along the way.
Yeah. I think vulnerability is a really interesting quality in leadership, and there's certainly limitations from the perspective of thinking about what is good for you from a career perspective in terms of how much vulnerability you show and how much you don't. There is the risk of alienating teams because you show too much vulnerability, and it's an overshare and things like that. I'm kind of curious and it's a question to both of you, how do you navigate the space of vulnerability in a way that is authentic to you and also useful to your change leadership?
That's a great question.
Trial and error.
Experiment, yes.
Experimentation. I would say, we started off small. Like I started off small with the team and, shared a small snippet, and depending on how they've reacted, then kind of opened up a little bit more. And we've seen our team, I'm going to say, flourish themselves on sharing with each other, whether it's professional, whether it's experiences on the job, or sometimes it's even personal. This stand-up has really kind of made our team coalesce a lot better, and building stronger connections and relationships because of that vulnerability.
And I think we also started from a place of trust. Like I'm maybe biased here, but we have an awesome team. And psychological safety and trust would never have been an issue right from the get-go. Like over the past year, I think our team sees us as vulnerable leaders and appreciate our leadership style. And I think we lean into that with them. So there isn't really that fear of how am I going to be perceived? What's that thought? Will they see me as a leader? Because I don't think it didn't come from a place of that's how we started there. And through this experience, I think we've only grown closer and tighter as a team in this journey because of that.
I like that. Zara, you also spoke about you've done a really good of introducing agility. But it's almost like without people knowing that you've introduced agility, like it hasn't been a thing. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I think that's kind of what a lot of people are facing into, is the potential cynicism and eyeball rolling around, oh, we're going agile, or, that kind of stuff. And recognizing it actually is very valuable to the organization, but not making about the we're going, but more we're doing and we're thinking. So any thoughts on that?
If I think about a couple of examples where I've seen it and have used it and practiced it, would be some of the initiatives that we had. And traditionally, we would have gone in as the OCM partner and started to support our sort of traditional ways of working, our stakeholder identification, our business impact assessment. And in those early conversations with the exec sponsor or the business lead at the time, we started to have those conversations around, really want to sort of engage with your team. We want your team to work with us and collaborate co-create the change plan. Let's work together on what those business impacts are, versus we go off sort of in sort of somewhat isolation and then sort of play it back and just, do those validation points to make sure it's accurate, have them sort of join sort of a little bit more at the hip. And it was received well. I mean, I would say that, if I'm honest, we probably had to select a year ago in terms of who we started this, when we started this with the respective business leads or exec sponsors. It wasn't something we've just go, we're all going to go and do this to everybody. We sort of like maybe picked a few. That's certainly how I approached it. And then just started to sort of show the value through that, because the moment you start to create those wins and have that narrative to sort of say this worked and this came from the business, not from the OCM function, you can start to then use that to play that to other experiences, other projects. It just makes it easier for us. It makes it easier for them to sort of look across the hall and say, okay, they liked it, then I'm willing to give it a go. But we never came out and said, we're going to try this something new, and this is this great thing called agility. They didn't hear that from us.
Yeah. Candace, any thoughts from you on that?
No, I think the being very selective on where we tried it and strategic on where we tried it, I think, is probably one of the key points that has driven the success, and of not making it a thing. And not using the word agile. It terrifies people. People automatically think of either the whole organization going into pods, or different scrum groups, or the framework that kind of terrifies a lot of people. And so we've tried to really stay away from that word, just like we've tried to stay away from change. Business readiness versus change readiness. Like, we've just tried to change a bit of the terminology that makes it just more consumable amongst our leaders and our stakeholders.
What do you see as the optimum mix, or what's your thoughts around the extent to which you do formal capability building through training versus the role modeling, the inorganic introduction of these practices and ways of being? Have you got thoughts on how that has played out for you in your journey, or what you do differently in that regard?
Do you want me to go take a crack? Yeah, sure.
Well, I wasn't sure whether you wanted to or not. I would say the large majority of our journey has been related to the organic kind of learning and integration. We have launched, I'm going to say, different cohorts on this journey from a learning the agile mindset and leveraging the amazing e-learning that ACLI has launched, and we've used it within our OCM team, with a broader HR team, and we've actually had business individuals who are either in strategy roles or in program lead roles participate in that, but it's been a pull versus a push. And so that has allowed it, and we've been able to kind of slowly start, and it's baby steps, right? But slowly start having them practice some of the mindset shifts, or some of the practices that we've kind of been bringing forwards. So it's working its way through, not just in our projects, but we've kind of done a little bit more of expanded tentacles out to the organization, but still in its infancy. But it's a mix of both, I think.
I like what you say about the pull. The pull is so important, because I think one of the things that we see that doesn't work is, we talk about the sheep dipping in Agile, right? You pull everybody in, you put them through a training course, and, fully recognizing we have courses and stuff like that. But actually, that pushing people and dipping them is actually really ineffective. You need to look at what does the broader program of reinforcement and opportunity. I think giving people opportunity to do things with the whatever you're introducing is really important. Yeah. So tell me, what's your favorite Agile Change practice or principle? What could you not do without now?
So for me, and I think I touched on this just a moment ago, but certainly the co-creation and the sort of concept of working out loud from the onset. That was one of the first things really leaned into, and sort of still continue to do that today. I love it. And it's so easy. It's almost like, why didn't I do this before? What took me so long? But really, really love the collaboration, the upfront, really getting that business engagement early and often.
Yeah, Nice.
In addition to what Zara said, I would say retrospectives. It is absolutely one of my new favorite practices. It's just a really great structured way to kind of reflect on what has happened in the recent past and promotes self-awareness, promotes learning, promotes continuous improvement, and it is such a flexible format that it can be used for anything. It can be used for, how did this team meeting go? Was the first time we're trying something to, the last sprint, to a change activity, to my children's learning around, they're learning around different experiences. I'm currently working with a business unit, and they're launching a new operating model, which includes new processes and new ceremonies, et cetera, and partnered with a consulting company who has come up with a really great foundation, but recognize that you put people in the mix, and we're a little hard to confirm how we're going to react, right? And so we've deliberately put retrospectives almost bi-weekly in place to kind of test, like, okay, we've had that ceremony up and running for 2 weeks. How's that going? What's working? What's not working? How can we adjust it? Specifically to make sure that they feel part of the process and making it fit right for us, but also to continue to refine it. And they have been so open to it, and happy. And I think part of that comes with the comfort that there's not going to be punishment if something's not going great,
Yeah.
right? It's about what can we do to make this better and course correct versus wait a year or wait 6 months and find out that it really didn't go successful, but we didn't have checkpoints along the way. And so it is my new favorite practice.
I love that. I love that. I think similarly, I don't know how to work now without working out loud. It's the most important practice I have that fits so many value, in terms of being able to get immediate feedback, to getting better ideas, to connecting me to other people in the organization. It's quite brilliant. Okay, thinking about your experience, what are your warnings to the listeners around the barriers to change and agility? What would you want others to be looking out for as they go on their path towards higher change maturity or more agility?
That's a great question. And for us, if I think about some of those barriers, it's certainly been our organizational culture. We've traditionally, and likely because of the pace of retail organization, but we've traditionally worked extremely well in crisis management, firefighting, and we come through that and we're like, wow, we're agile and we did it well. And so shifting the definition and mindset around sort of what agility is and isn't would be one thing. In the same sort of vein as organizational culture, we are also a culture of perfection, and failure has a bad word and a bad meaning in our organization. And so again, shifting those mindsets and values around, it's okay, you learn from failure, and it's okay not to be perfect, but how and what you do with that learning is the most important aspect from a growth, and then from sort of productivity, continuous improvement, all those good things. So I would say we still got a little bit of ways to go within our organization. We're learning. I'd say we learn every day, and we're gonna keep chipping away and keep working at it.
Yeah, brilliant. Candace, anything you'd add on to that in terms of things to watch out for?
So those are the two big ones I would suggest as well. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So if we flip it and then go, well, let's talk about the enablers. Tell me what you've learned actually speeds up, or at least makes the journey much more enjoyable. Maybe it doesn't speed it up, but it's a good thing.
In moving forwards with change agility, just like in any change, is that leadership, support, advocacy, and commitment is absolutely critical. we have our leadership support and advocacy at our senior level within our department. I wouldn't suggest that it's completely across the board at this point in time, but they're visible champions. And I think that is something that as we continue down our journey, I'm sure we will get more and more individuals that will be on that path with us, and we'll be able to move that forwards. The storytelling, and as Zara had suggested, having, being strategic and picking the individuals that we've actually worked with in this way and be able to have them say, oh, there's another part of the business that has been successful. I think that storytelling, as informal as it could be, it doesn't always have to be the most formal of storytelling, really holds a significant amount of power. And then the last one is where it has been successful has been places where there's psychological safety, and going back to that piece where I am comfortable to raise my voice. I am comfortable to make a mistake. I am comfortable to learn from it. And I'm not worried that I'm going to be looked negatively upon it, which means I'm willing to embrace change and I'm willing to try something new. I think those are probably the three biggest enablers where we've seen pockets of success.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. We're getting close to wrapping up the chat. Zara, what has surprised you most about this journey towards more agility, the use of agile change?
And again, I think I touched on this earlier, but certainly the ease, like, not us viewing it as an initiative or something big that needed to be brought in with a sort of a much more methodical approach. The ability to sort of take it in sort of bite-sized chunks and apply it where it makes sense and where it makes the most sense has certainly been sort of a bit eye-opening. And, I think I also spoke to this earlier too, but it hasn't changed the what we do with change management, but it's certainly changed the how. Like, we're still going to have stakeholders identified. We're still going to have a business impact to know what the current and future state looks like, but how we get the information and what that playback and that engagement and involvement, the co-creation of the content, the information just looks and feels a little bit different. Are we all the way to bright? Absolutely not, but we're certainly on that journey.
I love that. It doesn't change the what, it changes the how. That's such a powerful statement. Candace, to wrap this up, if I was to give you a magic wand, what would you wish for to make your path easier in the workplace around change and agility?
I had a magic wand. I think one of the biggest ones would be to move away from our pursuit of perfection. It is something that has driven our success in the past as an organization within our industry. And I think that it's really moving towards adding that value and learning along the way and improving that. And it would be awesome, myself included, recovering perfectionist, been on a journey myself to do that, and so I appreciate the vulnerability and the fear that comes with that. But I think that if I can sit there and wave a wand and say, it's now all changed, I think that would be the big piece, because the door opens significantly on so many other areas once that pillar is kind of toppled.
Brilliant, brilliant. Zara Thurgood, Candace Trapp, you have been legendary and most generous to the people who are listening. What can people offer you? Like, is there something you would like off the listeners that we can do a shout out for?
I think the call out I would have is, if you're debating, try it. Just take that leap and do it. Don't wait. Don't overthink it. Just try. I
love that. Candace, final words?
Assess and try again.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today. Listeners, I hope that you enjoyed this episode of Conversations of Agile Change. We will, of course, be back for more.
Thank you.
Thank you.